Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode
76.
Yeah. I just want to see if Mike knew. That was my whole goal. Is he tracking the episode numbers?
I track mostly to make sure that you're doing it right.
I know. Just kind of like how Mike always feels. There's a video coming too of how many times Mike has adjusted this mic.
Yeah, but it's funny that I'm the one being blamed for it. I wouldn't have to adjust the mic if you would just talk into it. That's how they work.
No. But I'm working on it. I guess it beats having that awkward headset.
Yeah, you're getting better. I have to say, you're getting a lot better.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. But hey, something really important happening today. What do we got going on?
So we've got a super awesome interview today. I'm really excited about it. Is one of these guys that you follow on Instagram. I follow him on Instagram, and he's always doing something different. Like, he's a reseller, but he's got so many other things going on. It's crazy. It's hard to keep up. He lives a life that's just like amazing. And
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting even watching him.
But it's exhausting in a good way. So he's been on YouTube for years. He's actually one of the first people I started watching. I learned so much from. So it's very surreal that we have him on the podcast today.
Yeah, super awesome.
So why don't you introduce yourself real quick? Tell us a little bit about who you are, Eric.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast. My name is Eric. Most people in the resale space know me as CP or the college picker because that's kind of when I started reselling, was when I was in college.
That was 7 years ago. Well, 7 years ago was not when you started college, it's when you started doing YouTube?
I want to say it was like 2012 or 2011, something like that.
Okay.
Wow.
Maybe 7 years ago. I don't know.
All right. So if you're brand new and listening, all right. So the College Picker on Instagram, the College Picker on YouTube. Are you anywhere else, Eric?
That's the two platforms that I use. Okay. I'm on Twitter, but I just have the handle. I don't use it.
I get it. So tell me about, I did watch your video yesterday from 2013 or something like that. It was back in the day. You had like headphones on. Do you remember that video?
Is it like the first one that I ever posted?
Yeah, the very first one.
Yeah. So I filmed it on like a webcam that's exactly like this. It was just a Logitech C910 or a C920, something like that. And just because it was a little bit better than the webcam that was on the computer, I had used that. I think my roommate had one, and the audio was better because it was stereo instead of, I don't know, the bad stuff that's integrated on the computers. But yeah, I filmed it with like the exact setup that I have right now.
Yeah, but it's a little updated, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. And I'm in a room where I lived with like a bunch of dudes, and it was like really messy, and we weren't very clean. It was just a bunch of college kids.
It was awesome though. So tell us a little bit why you started reselling and when did you start? Because I remember on that video watching the eBay pages and they look pretty antiquated. So how long have you been reselling for?
I actually I would say 2007 actually.
Okay.
Would probably be where I would say the root of it actually starting was in 2007. And that's when me and my roommates in undergraduate decided to go get our motorcycle licenses because parking was so expensive to get parking permits for cars on campus. And it was so hard to get a space. So the motorcycle parking was always really close to class, and it was open, and it was only, I think, like $40 a year for a permit.
Nice. So
we went and got our motorcycle licenses. I bought a bike off of Craigslist for, I want to say $1,000, maybe $900. I put a little money into it, about $200, fixed it up, rode it for a couple of months, and I sold it for about a $200 or $300 profit, selling it back on a Craigslist. So I was like, well, how did this work? How did I buy something for this much and then sell it for this much? And we really got into motorcycles at the time, which is kind of weird because usually you start small, not with something so big.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because normally, you think of people who start reselling and it's typically smaller things, going into thrift stores or garage sales or things like that. And then I've always looked at the people who do like car flips or motor vehicle flips as being like
high level.
Yeah.
Like low risk is where you start. It's not something that has title work and insurance and moving parts and number of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit backwards, and it was definitely not planned. It was just something that we figured out is like, well, if we just hound Craigslist and keep hitting refresh, we can find good deals in motorcycles. Because I was in Tampa, and there's a pretty high population of people there. in a pretty good motorcycle culture, I guess, to where the market was, I found a market that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Were you already kind of like mechanically inclined? Did you fix cars and stuff ahead of time, or did you learn
No,
on that first motorcycle?
I kind of learned as I went. I've always been kind of like tinkery and not afraid to get my hands dirty or to read and to learn. There wasn't really DIY YouTube videos, but I would dig into forums and read like problems with this transmission, might need to have like this part tweaked or whatever. But we wouldn't be buying bikes that were completely trashed. It would just be like body work, or maybe carbs need to be cleaned, or really simple things. Like there are a lot of bolt-on, bolt-off parts. So you could just get a bike that maybe, and people drop bikes a lot. So it's really cosmetic parts, like superficial parts that you could get off of another bike or buy the parts off of eBay or from a junkyard or whatever, and fix the bikes up and then flip them back on Craigslist with better pictures, or you just hold on to the bike longer rather than taking some college kid's lowball offer.
So what took you away? Because you don't do bikes anymore, correct? Or do you still do every once in a while?
No, I don't. I don't have the space for it. That's the thing, is you need the space.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a garage, a 2-car garage, and we didn't park any cars in it. We had like 8 or 9 motorcycles.
Nice. Because I remember watching that, and I remember you talking about like you loved being in the garage, like jamming out and just working on the bikes.
My wife remembers the days I would just like completely ignore her and go into the garage and work on motorcycles.
So you knew your wife back then, or is that when you were?
Yeah, I met her in undergrad. Yeah, so she knows this whole bunch of people that I was working. She knows the house that the motorcycles were being worked on in. I had pictures of her like modeling on the bikes just for fun. Sometimes I don't know where any of these pictures exist, but I wish I would have documented this. I really wish.
Wow, I did not know that. Like it seemed like your wife came out of nowhere like 3-4 years ago. So I've
known her since undergrad. Yeah, so it's like 10 years or so.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, 2009, 2008, something like that.
So when you were going through school, obviously you went to college. Did you think that this would be what you were doing, that you'd be doing reselling and this for a living, or?
In some form or factor, yeah, because it just saves so much of your money, like doing it. The lifestyle that it creates, it's just something that somebody can, if they enjoy finding a deal or like kind of like hacking the system or whatever in order to lower their costs or to pay for a hobby or whatever, like it just clicks and it makes sense. Any other way would just be too expensive or a waste of money, it seems like.
So what had you, so I remember initially you were very big about hard goods. I remember in your first few videos, I did some research. I remember watching this, you had said something like, I remember you had some Merrell shoes, and actually some of your Bellows that you had mentioned still are good today, but then you had said like, you really don't like clothes. So what happened?
Back then I wasn't into fashion at all. Like this was all pre-smartphone, right? Pre-social media. Like I was doing the wrenching on motorcycles before YouTube. So that was like, while YouTube was in its infancy. I think YouTube started like 2007, 2008, 2009. Yeah. And that's when I was wrenching on wrenching on motorcycles instead of making YouTube videos at the time, because if I would have just gotten into YouTube early, probably would have been a lot better than being some college motorcycle flipper. But I was always into hard goods because of the motorcycles. We were selling the parts that we wouldn't need off on eBay, or the broken parts, or we would, if it had like nice exhaust on it, we would sell that exhaust on eBay and then put the stock exhaust on it or whatever and sell the bike locally. But I had known sports growing up. I didn't really know fashion. I didn't know brands. Like I just wore hand-me-downs. So I didn't have a knowledge base of nice clothes. And I didn't understand that nice clothes made it to thrift stores, or even what nice clothes. I didn't even know what Patagonia was back when I was in early college. I didn't know any of that. So it was just, I didn't focus on clothes at all. It was just what I knew, which was sports and outdoor stuff and bikes and motorcycles.
So what got you there? The only reason I ask is I remember watching this one video. This is when you had that, I would say Ho Chi Minh kind of beard going on. Remember back a few years ago? You said it, so I'm just repeating. Yeah. But and you were sitting there and you literally had all these starter jackets and you had all this vintage, like pretty awesome satin jackets. So what got you? Like, did you just start going to thrift stores and just researching, and then you're like, hey, these brands are good?
It got into the YouTube community a little bit. His name was Soul Foods or Soul Food San Fran Soul Food SF. Sorry, Soul Food SF. He's not on YouTube anymore, so I can't remember his name, but he's still on Instagram, posting here and there. Soul Food SF was a big vintage guy on YouTube, and F as in Frank was also a website that I had stumbled upon, which was a bunch of vintage gear, and I was like, wow, this stuff is awesome. And then it made sense that finding the only place to find it is like at flea markets and the secondhand arena if you're looking for the deals on it. And that stuff really doesn't go down in value because it has a finite supply, and it's like re-emerging 90s trends. It's like, well, I'm going to start buying this stuff when I see it and kind of 401 closet investing in it and putting it away and start selling it. Yeah.
So
I would say,
go ahead.
I would say Soul Food SF and F as in Frank would be the kind of guys that influenced me way back. And this was pre-Macklemore thrift shop too.
No, I remember you did a Macklemore video too. I remember that one. That was pretty good.
I love that 401 closet. That was
explain 401 closet just so people have no idea what we're saying.
This is the term 401 closet. I was chatting with somebody on Instagram, and I was just saying like, oh yeah, you buy that chair for $2, put it in your closet. It's gonna be worth that money, and it'll appreciate, or it will be worth $40 or $50 a year down the road. Just, it's a play on the word 401k. And it's like, you just put the stuff in the closet and it's just going to appreciate slowly or rapidly depending on a trend. And eventually you could pull it out and sell it, make some money off of it.
That's genius. Have you trademarked that phrase yet?
No, marks here. It's open for anybody to use and to enjoy.
That's awesome.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your operation. So I know you've done so much. I mean, that's what's awesome about your life. I really think you should write a book. I seriously do. Like, you've had so many experiences. But right now you're back at home. So what does your
Texas home? Yes,
in your Texas home. Okay. So what does your operation look like? Are you eBay? Are you Amazon? I know you do Etsy, and we'll talk about that in a
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. But are you pharmacist right now, or is that
no,
kind
I'm
of
not working? I'm not working. My wife really wants me to work and resell on the side to supplement everything, and to just basically me and her bearing down the hatches, make as much money as we possibly can for the next couple of years, and then figure out what we're going to do. I guess go back to Florida and retire. But right now I'm not working pharmacy, but I will probably be looking for either some sort of sales rep job here to supplement my income. Because I'm in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, I'm very limited on space on what I can do resale wise. So I'm kind of at near maximum capacity without having a ton of stuff everywhere. I mean, you can see some vintage hats going on over here, but I have a little office workspace behind me, but I'm on a second story. Like, I can't do a ton here, but I do have some stuff that's listed or in storage in Florida at my mom's house, because all my family's in Florida. So I do have some stuff there. So that's like the Florida annex. And whenever I go back to Florida and we buy a property, I'll probably move a lot of that stuff into our house and have an eBay and Etsy going on there. But here, it's just a lot of the closets are 401 closets, and it's a tight space here.
So percentage wise, what would you say if you talk about Amazon, eBay, and Etsy? Where do the percentages land?
I have about 130 listings, maybe 150 listings on Etsy right now. I want to say I have 220 listings on eBay and just a handful of listings on Amazon, because I just do one-offs on Amazon.
Okay. But you do, I mean, you consistently sell, right? I mean, I see you selling all the time.
Yeah. Sold something on Amazon for $550 today, I think. $549 maybe.
And it's vintage electronics. Is that right?
No, that one wasn't.
All right. Well, we're not going to share that bolo.
That one wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, your Walkmans, your Sony stuff. Yeah, that I like doing that when I see it, but that one specifically wasn't. I wouldn't consider that one a vintage electronic.
All right. So talk to us about Etsy a little bit, because that's the one I have no experience.
Neither of you guys do Etsy, right?
No, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I know a few people in the reselling community. Etsy's something that I feel like grew, and then it just people stopped talking about it, and there's some that still do it. So what are the advantages of Etsy? Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Way back in the YouTube days, I had never heard of Etsy either. And this one guy, Brent Ott, he's on Instagram. Brent Ott, sorry, not Brett. Brent Ott. He is on Instagram as O Unit Productions, and he's kind of quiet, but he used to be a YouTube guy way back in the day, and he's the one who kind of got me into Etsy. And it's good because the market there, it kind of commands a premium compared to eBay. Like, it has a different vibe to it, more of a boutique-y kind of feel. So you can ask a little bit more, I feel like.
So
I've gotten more than what you would comp on eBay in the past. So.
Nice. Because when I think of Etsy, I think of, because my wife gets stuff on Etsy all the time, and it's like decorations for the house that somebody like hand makes, and you're doing clothes on Etsy. Is that primarily?
It's almost synonymous with most people with with handmade items or print on demands. But the whole entire website is vintage or handmade goods is kind of what you can do on Etsy.
Nice.
And isn't it the lowest seller fees out of all the platforms?
Yeah. It had, at one point, it was under 5%. I think they raised it to 5%. And then their stock shot up once they raised their fees. But I want to say it's 5%.
Okay. So would you recommend, so I love 90s gear, and I have a ton of 90s gear. It's all on eBay though. Would you recommend I shift some of it to Etsy, or what are your thoughts on that?
Do you have all the photographs stored somewhere, or would you have to
I do. No, I have them.
Yeah, I would say it has its benefits. Like you're saying, some of its benefits. They have some cool features. Like, for instance, one of your feedback you can get, they can post a picture of themselves with the item.
Huh.
And it's a feedback picture. So it could be, I've had people like wearing a jersey and posting a picture, which is just, it adds like a touch of personality to it that eBay doesn't have. And Etsy also archives everything ever. So I can go back to like my early sales from like 2014 and see all of my photos. That listing is already created. So for instance, if I sold a vintage 49ers hat in 2015 and I have like a similar one, instead of there's no sell one like this feature, but if I've sold that item in the past, I can copy that listing. It copies all the tags, the description, and I can just change the pictures, and bam, like that listing is pretty much just a swap.
Nice.
Well, I'm super interested because I've really been wanting to jump into Etsy. I just don't want to put in the work.
It's not fast. So like, it's not fast money, and I don't by any means. I'm not wealthy off of Etsy.
No, I get that.
It's fun and it's more boutique, and I enjoy it more so than like the turn and burn of Amazon or eBay.
Okay.
If I could just have like a 4,000 item Etsy store and be retired and just do that for fun, like that would be great.
But you were saying the eyes that are on Etsy aren't as much as on eBay then? Is that?
No, if you look at traffic, United States website traffic, top 50 websites, I think eBay is like 12 or 13, and Etsy I think is in like the 40s or the 30s or the 40s. So yeah, there's the eyes, they're not there yet traffic wise, but so it's still a very prominent website throughout the world. Even like I get a lot of sales that go overseas.
Oh, so there is global. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wondered. I just sold the Chargers logo 7 from the 90s to some guy in New Zealand. Nice. So I was like, all right, good for you. Is that
global shipping?
Huh? Yeah. GSP. Oh yeah, GSP. Yeah. I love GSP. How do you feel about GSP? Do you use GSP?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good to just have to ship off to Kentucky rather than filling out customs forms and having Japanese jackets bounce back 3 times. So
okay, hey, let's talk. I mean, we shared a lot about that in the podcast.
Yeah, no, but I love.
So what are your biggest takeaways? So in case you're new to the podcast, so College Picker. The College Picker found a Levi's. What exactly was the jacket? I don't remember the exact.
It's a Type 2 blanket lined Levi's jacket from like 1951 or 1952. I think is how it was dated based on the way that the red label was.
Okay, so you have like 3 or 4 videos on this one, right? and your YouTube channel?
Because it's given such a headache, and I don't know. Well, when I found it, I had to make a video about finding it, and that's when everyone said it was fake, and it was a LVC, it was a retro, it wasn't an original one, and just yeah.
So how's it? Okay, so that's the thing I always talk about on social media. Social media, I always feel whenever I post or do anything, there's always somebody that knows more than I do, right? Or somebody says that's fake, or somebody says that's wrong. So
and there's a difference between knowing more and then people that just like don't know anything and they're just saying it's fake because they just don't want to see you succeed. Yeah. Because that's what it more was. It's like people that really don't. It's someone I've never even heard of before. I've never seen their handle because that video's gotten traction. Okay. It's getting shown to people that don't know who I am, and that I wouldn't make a video about a jacket saying that it's worth like $2,000 if I honestly didn't do my research and figure out this thing is likely worth at least $2,000. And for them to just say, no, that's a retro, it was LVC, it's fake or whatever. Like, no.
I just remember when you had that find, I was blown away. That's one of those that it should catch traction. Eventually you should get contacted.
I am convinced that is the highest clothing item sale on Etsy until I can be proven. Until somebody shows me otherwise. Like, I don't think a clothing item has been sold on Etsy for a higher amount than that.
What did you end up getting for it?
$5,722.
Nice.
And then when you broke down the fees, though, so you have a whole video on breaking down the fees, so I don't want to go through it. What was your final takeaway?
Like 49 or something.
Okay, that's still good.
So that's
like that.
So you should be like a spokesman for Etsy. Like that, you should do a commercial for them and say, like, look at how much money you can make selling clothes on Etsy.
And then Levi's would come after me, looking like I'm representing Levi's.
Oh man.
Oh, we could.
I think we know where that's going.
Yeah,
right?
we know. So what are your 3 takeaways from that whole ordeal with the Levi's jacket?
Don't take well, everyone should know this. If you can hold out on the first offer, like you don't need the money right now to pay rent or buy groceries for your family. Like, don't take the first offer on something that you're not really sure about the market. Especially if you have it listed high and you get a DM or a personal message on eBay saying like, hey, will you consider like taking $3,000 instead of $5,000? Don't necessarily take that first offer because that could be indicative of a reseller, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you can hold out on that first initial offer, which I already had it planned to hold out because I listed it without measurements, knowing that a reseller would buy it regardless of the measurements, but a buyer would want to know the measurements. Huh. So it kind of weeded out the resellers right then and there.
That's an interesting...
That's a new segment on our show. Tip of the week.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
That's good.
Yeah, and you'd only probably do that for like really, really high-end stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to do that for just like a pearl snap shirt or something. It was just because this thing had such little... There were no comps. There was just actives. And then there was stuff on Rakuten. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rakuten. It's like a Japanese global buy-sell site. Not exactly like eBay because it's more of, it's not bidding. It's just buy it now stuff, but it's just a e-commerce site in Japan. And there was a couple actives on Rakuten. And I had to kind of take into consideration condition and sizing and everything. And then being the only one on Etsy as well kind of was in the equation because there were a couple of them on eBay when I had listed it.
Yeah, no, that's a super awesome thing. I mean, that whole story, we followed it on the podcast for a while just because it was so incredible. So
no, I was listening. I'm on like episode 47 or 48 or 49 maybe, and I keep hearing the updates on it.
It's like
Orlando keeps saying it was 5,200. I'm like, no, it was 5,700.
Oh, did I really? Oh, I totally messed up. It's okay. There's so many things I've messed up on the podcast.
It's all good.
So, all right. So, talk to us real quick. Just shipping. All right. So, what best practice for shipping when it's an expensive item like that going overseas?
Yeah, as long as it's under $2,500, you can ship it as you would ship anything else. Once it goes over $2,500, you need to do a lot more customs, form information, harmonizing codes.
What is harmonizing codes?
It's customs jargon that.
Okay.
It's like picking what the item exactly is.
Okay.
They have so many classifications of everything. And I went into like jackets, soft textile jackets and denim or cotton based or something. Like you have to just go into this tree of classification. And I would just skip USPS altogether and just go with FedEx, and then call FedEx and ask them to be your broker or your representative. And it's only $10 in order for them to do the export data. And you basically get ported into FedEx's website portal, and you can get a customer service rep on the phone to walk you through everything. Instead of trying to do it through the government, exporting, you have to create more logins and exporting website stuff from the government. And it just makes it a lot more complicated to try to do it yourself.
That seems overwhelming. And you went through that 3 times.
Yeah, FedEx, it would have been so much easier.
Okay.
Oh, that's a huge tip. So now we know if it's something that big, go through FedEx. Save yourself some time and headache, and don't have it returned to you 2 or 3 times. That would be
or if you sell something that high, just like ask for help on Instagram. Just throw it up and tag people and be like, what should I do? Because they might forget the information by then. But FedEx, they're more than willing to help, and they even walked me through the stuff on the phone, and it kind of like helped me with how I had to do it like a different way. But anyways, go with FedEx.
That's cool.
Hey,
all right. So, I'm kind of want to bring it back to this idea of you're a pharmacist, like you had
legalized drug dealer.
You got.
I knew he was gonna go there.
Nice. So I mean, this is a profession. Like that's not like just a little job that you're deciding not to do. That's like a serious, well-respected profession. So what is it about reselling that's like, what, I can put that on the side as the side job, and I want to resell? Like, what is it that makes reselling that special to you?
It's just the freedom of it. You can incorporate traveling to resell. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can flip the switches, you can go hard, you can go not so hard. And it's just a lot of flexibility and variety of it. And with an attention span of what I have, just being behind the counter doesn't do it for me. It really doesn't. That's why I'm going to try to, if I do cave in and do something that my wife wants me to do, I'll probably do sales, like either medical equipment or some sort of pharmaceutical sales, just because it will incorporate maybe traveling and networking, which would kind of maybe pique my interest for a little bit more so than being behind the counter.
Yeah, and you love traveling. I mean, you've been all over the place. What are some of the places you've been recently, and what do you do when you go there? Because I watch some of your Insta videos and some of the things you're doing, but for our listeners who don't know.
I just got back from the UK. I was cycling. I flew into Paris and cycled up to the ferry to go to the UK, and then cycled a lot of the UK up to Scotland, and then got the information about my dad being sick, or not really sick. It's just like lifestyle choices, and then having to go to surgery, and then sold my bike within a couple of days of making that decision, and then flew back home. But yeah, I like to I don't always bring the bike with me, but every couple of years I've done like a bike trip, and self-supported. So I'm like camping and sleeping outside, not really knowing where I'm going to be, and very open to the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like I see people who do that kind of stuff. I have a bike. I have a nice road bike, Specialized Ales, that I ride occasionally. But like the idea of actually going and like just basically living on the road, not having a plan, riding on the bike, stopping at different places, camping. That's incredible. What are some of the takeaways you have from that? Like, what are your highlights?
It gives you a different sense of traveling. You become part of the atmosphere, and everything, like days seem to go longer. It's just a slower pace. And I've heard this when people say that they walk across countries, or they do like big walking trips. They're like, yeah, it just goes even slower when you walk. Well, it goes slow when you ride, but I guess it goes even slower when you walk, and you smell the smells, you get to see things you wouldn't have stopped for in a car, and you just kind of get to appreciate little things like caterpillars crossing the road or whatever. And just, it puts you in this vulnerability state where people come up to you and talk to you, and they're like, invite you into their house, they'll give you some food or whatever. Like it opens up this conversation door that like never would have been there. And I don't know, it's a different, you see a different side of humanity.
So you've been to Dubai, am I right? Did you go to Dubai?
Yeah, I didn't bring the bike to Dubai, but my wife had a job in Dubai for about a year, so I visited there. So I was there for I think just one visa, which is like a little over 30 days. I think my visa expired, but then there was something on a forum saying that you can get away with an extra 10 days without having to renew the visa. So I stayed a little extra and then left.
So, I mean, you've been, okay. So yeah, and that's what I mean. You've been Dubai, Japan, UK,
Bangkok was
Bangkok. That's right.
I did about 4 months in Bangkok when she had a job. She had a job in oil. So they've moved her to like different places. She was international. So she got to go work in these places. And I didn't get to go stay there as long as I had liked. And we weren't married at the time either. So I would just go visit her when,
so what's been your top three experience? I mean, I keep using the word three, but what's been your top experiences in traveling? Because you've been to a lot of places, and some you've stayed, some you've biked through, others you've gone there, for a few days. What has been your favorite and why?
Whenever you go to out of the country for the first time, like that always has like a soft spot in your heart. So I went to Vietnam when I was like 15 years old. So I had a really good trip in Vietnam. I was with two of my really close friends at the time. Now we're kind of grown, and one has a career and the other one has a family, so we don't talk as much. But we've been pretty close throughout most of our lives, and I got to go with him, so that was a huge impact just because of the culture shock of a whole another food and language and everything. And I was there for like a month and a half,
wow,
pretty much staying with the local family. So it was a different experience than like hotel travel. It was very, very humbling and cool to see and live without air conditioning and to do the ladle bath and just a different experience. So the Vietnam trip when I was super young, that one, cycling Japan with Cody was definitely up there. That was such a fun trip. Japan was great. That's where I got engaged. It's just an amazing culture, like 10 years in the future of a people that are just so respectful. They still have integrity and honor and don't think about stealing things. Like we would leave our bikes unlocked. Like you couldn't do that in a big city in the United States. Like your bike would just get stolen. But over there, they still put a value on integrity and honor and things like that. So Japan for sure. And then Bangkok, I really liked Thailand too. Thailand was awesome.
So are you saying, did you say Japan 10 years in the future? So you're saying it's a whole different ballgame when you're over there?
Yeah, with technology. I would say in the future, technology wise, but maybe with their integrity, it was like the US in the past.
Right. Okay.
Because I've heard Japan now is like how US was in like the 50s, where people didn't have to worry about their kids like playing after dark, or you didn't have to worry about people killing people hitchhiking. Like it felt safe in the 50s. That's what people had told me about Japan, and that's how I felt it was safe. But yeah, 10 years tech in the future.
Huh. So what does reselling look like when you're on these trips? Do you just like shut it off and say like, I'm enjoying this vacation, I'm enjoying this journey?
I always look for a thrift store if they're there, or a flea market or a vintage shop or something. Like there's a bunch of vintage markets in Thailand, but the prices are not resellable. It's more of just like market. I'm just doing it kind of like for market research and personal entertainment to go see kind of what's up. Like the vintage markets there, they'll have 90s tees and Iron Maiden stuff, Slayer shirts, like this crazy stuff that somehow got exported over there, maybe in gaylords of our used clothing, like back in maybe the 90s and 80s, that we just discarded and was like, we don't want this crap, but you guys take it. I don't know exactly how they acquired all this amazing vintage stuff, but some of it's over there. Japan actually does have a little bit of a secondhand thrifting culture, so you can go to the thrift stores or whatever over there, and I definitely try to pop in just to see what it's like. Even in Dubai, yeah, there was a thrift store in Dubai too.
I remember you going.
I can only imagine what those costs would be.
They were normal, right? The prices pretty normal wherever you go.
It was a charity shop, and their prices were normal, but it was like in a poorer part of town, and you would expect like Dubai, it's like Gucci everything, but I think I found a Ferragamo jacket and 2 Robert Graham shirts, and I think that was it, really. And a Game Boy Micro, but it was it was just normal prices.
So, do you have any issues at customs bringing the stuff back, or does it just look like it's part of your clothing because you're only doing like clothing?
No customs issues. When I went to Thailand, I bought a bunch of Beijing Starbucks mugs when I was at the airport. So I had probably, I don't know, 20 or 24 Beijing and China Starbucks mugs, the city mugs that sold. I've sold out of those ones at about $65 to $80 a piece, I think.
Wow. Nice.
And that, if anything, would have triggered customs is that, but it's like 25 mugs. If you have 25 friends, like they don't mess.
I'm going home.
It's not like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of goods that could harm somebody or like agricultural or anything.
Okay. I just was wondering if you had any fees or anything to pay, but that's good to hear.
And then do you put like your store and all of that on hold when you go on these vacation trips, or do you have somebody who comes and kind of helps with that?
Depends on the trip. Recently, because I was in the UK and Rachel was here, she was able to ship anything that was selling here. So she was just shipping. It was awesome that she was able to do it. I thank her for it. I don't think she was too happy about it.
So, all right. So a question. All right. Years ago, you had this video where you sold stuff at a Seminoles game. Do you remember that? Where you sold the Saturn jacket? So tell us what I just want to know what led to that. Did you enjoy it? And would you ever do something like that again?
See, at the time I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but my voice was so hoarse the next day. Like I couldn't talk because I was like screaming, but I don't think I would do it again. I don't know. Maybe I've just, I've gotten too old. I'm like in my 30s now.
Okay, so let's rewind it. Well, let's explain it. So a lot of people haven't seen this video. You should check it out on YouTube. The College Picker on YouTube.
How to Hustle, I think, is the name of the video.
Yeah, I think you have 2 parts.
Yeah, it's in 2 parts, and I literally just like went around with like a Galaxy Note 2 filming, and I had no idea of the video until the day of. It was a game day, and I was like, I have all this vintage Seminole stuff. Let's like see if I could just go sell it to people.
So you literally put it on and you walked out.
It was rejection after rejection after rejection. That's the thing. Like, I'd rather not do it because it was like 99% rejection.
I mean, you seriously had the clothing on and you're out there. And what did you just approach? Like, hey, do you want a Seminoles jacket? I mean, how did it work?
I had a backpack on and some of the stuff was, it was hanging off of hangers. And I said, oh, like vintage Seminoles gear. Like, I guess vintage wasn't that popular yet, but people go ape for it now, the vintage Seminole stuff. There's a guy that does specifically vintage Seminole stuff. His name's Junkman Doug, and he's in Florida. And that's his whole hustle is vintage Seminoles gear. He does pop-up shops around town. He gets insane, like top prices. He goes to bars in town and sets up, and it brings people into the bar because they're like, oh, I want to go to Junkman Doug's pop-up shop. And it brings people to a shop that are already in the bar, and then everyone's drinking and makes an event out of it. And he just like sells, like he sells vintage Seminole stuff, and the students are churning. So you're getting what, 10,000, 15,000 new Seminoles fans every single year.
That's genius.
And no returns, right? I mean,
and he sells it in person. It's no returns.
And I remember you sold that satin jacket for $100, right? You had one that you paid $5 for.
So, yeah.
It was a clean jacket, though. I mean, it was nice.
I think I've sold 3 of those since then.
Wow.
3 satin jackets.
Now, how's the market on that? I find that satin jackets, depending on the team, they do well. Do you think it's still as strong as it was?
It depends on the team, depends on the market of and also the location. If it's in Miami and it's hot all the time, it's going to be a harder sell just because your population of your fans are mostly in like a warmer climate. Not everybody, of course. There's going to be some Miami fans that live up north, but it just depends on the team. Like how diehard are those fans for those kind of jackets? Like, is it a saturated market? I've had one that's a Pittsburgh Pirates MLB satin jacket that I don't think I have sold it. Maybe it's sold. I'd have to check my Etsy, but it might have been in my store for 3 years before it sold. I don't know. Like just certain ones won't.
All right. So, hey, talk to me about that. So, there's different theories about reselling. There's some people that are like, you should have something only for so long in your store and then you just donate it. Now, you more of like, hey, I'm going to let it sit. It could be a decade.
that's the 401 closet theory. It's if that item is no longer produced and has that really, it has its inherent value of being something from an era of the satin jackets is kind of like a holy grail of a team's. If you could support a team, you're going to like buy their vintage jacket for having the best gear in the stands or whatever, or at the tailgate, like, or a Fanimation jacket or something crazy. It's like the top of what you can get. So I'm not afraid to put it in the closet for 2-3 years and let it sit. Perfect example is the Zelda shirt I posted on Instagram. Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw it. I just sold it for $125, but it was a 1999 shirt. Etsy only allow vintage, considering it has to be previous 20 years old to be considered vintage by Etsy standard. So that was in my closet for 2 years, waiting for it to become vintage.
Oh, wow.
I bought it. It wasn't 20 years old. I couldn't put it on Etsy. I didn't want to put it on eBay. I just checked it in the 401 closet, pulled it out, sold in 3 days for $125.
Really? Wow. So to you, it's that much worth it for like the high-end vintage to go Etsy as opposed to eBay?
I mean, I might have been able to get 125 on eBay too, but I just tend to go, I don't know. I'm just like trained Etsy to go vintage with Etsy now.
Nice. That's awesome. And you also do, besides just clothing, you also do a lot of electronic stuff. Because I've seen you do like some repair things where you'll fix things that are broken. In fact, I know Orlando sent you a Vitamix knowing you'd fix it.
Yeah.
So you fix like mechanical stuff, but like you fix like computers and that kind of stuff too, right?
Yeah, I'll do computer repairs depending how crazy the thing is. Like water damage, and when it gets into like micro soldering, I don't really have the knowledge or the tools in order to do that. But just simple like the motorcycles, like most parts are just bolt on, bolt off, plug it in, plug it out. Parts are meant to fail. Well, certain parts are meant to fail over time, and then just be replaced if it's a good design. And then if they're not a good design, then you have to replace the entire thing.
Now, the tricky thing with computers, and you shared this, is data, right? In the sense that people don't remove their data, right?
I'm so most surprised. Of the time. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many passwords and pictures and even social security cards and driver's license and credit cards and debit cards, full PayPal passwords and everything, Facebook, whatever. Clean pictures, dirty pictures. I've seen it all on people's computers that they didn't wipe their data. They did not do a factory restore before selling their computer. Can't believe it. You just shake your head at it.
That's great. So do you purchase computers in order to like fix them? Like, are you looking for them? Do you do mostly like Craigslist, or what about like thrift stores? Like, what's your model for picking up those and fixing those?
Thrift stores, you're not really going to find a modern enough computer. It's going to be the trickle down of a lot of the older electronics. Maybe not in California, maybe not in San Diego. In San Diego, you'll be able to find some nice Bose stuff or maybe some MacBook Pros or something. Sometimes. I don't know. But usually, yeah, your computers at thrift stores are normally 99% of the time going to be trash. So I go to pawn shops or just check on like OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. Just try to find some deals. And then recently, probably about the last 6 months, rather than posting them on eBay or Amazon, because you used to be able to sell Apple products on Amazon, but they nixed that. And that was a big blow because I had a lot invested in the Magic Mouse. That was a good bolo that I would buy the Magic Mouse. It was an eBay to Amazon flip. I would buy it off of eBay for like $20, $30, and I would sell them for like $79 to $99 on Amazon. And then I had like 40. I went nuts. I bought like 45 of them at one point, sent them in, and then Apple brought the axe down, and now I'm stuck with like 45 Magic Mouses that I have left over in stock.
Yeah, hopefully they'll go over time on eBay, right?
Amazon drops the hammer whenever they want. Like, they don't care. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So tell me, I want to know about the pawn shop hustle, because that is the one thing I've never done. Like, I always feel that if I go
it's intimidating. Yeah.
It is. And I always feel like if I'm going to go into a pawn store, number one, I'm even like concerned about taking my phone out. Right. Or that they already know a lot more than I do, and I'm going to get hustled no matter what. Because, you watch Pawn Stars on the History Channel, and you always know those people get hustled every single time.
I mean, they're providing a service to the people. the people are providing a service to them, and then they're providing the service to the customers. It's in the circle of pawn. So the people that are pawning the items, they need the cash same day. Maybe they don't have the knowledge or the shipping materials, the postal scale, or the patience to sell anything on eBay, or they just think that eBay is a scam. I don't know. Whatever reason, they go to the pawn shop. So the pawn shop, depending on the pawn shop, but they have a registrar of the people. They're like, oh, that's a good lender. Like, we can give him a little bit more if he's going to pawn that thing because he has a good history with us. Like, they have basically like history of people pawning things, paying it off, or not paying it off, or getting like iCloud locked phones or whatever. Like they can like red flag people to like not loan them money. So they're providing this service to the people, because a lot of them, people pawn things for a loan, like a short-term loan. You give them your MacBook Pro, maybe it would be worth $800 on eBay. Pawn shop gives you $400, but you say you're going to pay it back, and then you eventually like pay them back a total of like $500. And if you don't, then they keep the item, and then whatever payments you've made towards it. So they hedge their risk accordingly. But each item is purchased a different way. Maybe it was pawned, maybe it has layaway into it. And based on the item, you can work out deals, and also based on the pawn shop and what rapport you've developed. And they don't always know everything about everything, just like anywhere. Like, you would think eBay, you wouldn't be able to find deals on eBay. You find great deals on eBay.
It's true. So what does the purchasing side of it look like though? So when you're walking in to buy things, how often do you find deals in a pawn shop where you could say, hey, I'm going to be able to turn this around and make some money?
So it's hit or miss. Just like I went to I go to two today, and I didn't buy anything. I was just cruising, just saying hi to the workers and just looking, see if they had any deals. Sometimes I'll take a couple pictures of computers. If I don't feel like looking them up in the store, I'll take a picture of the serial number, and I'll go home. I'll make sure, see if it has warranty. Or if I'm in a hurry and don't want to sit there too long. But I usually, if I really tried, I could pull an item out of every store, I would say, to make, I try to shoot for at least like a $50 profit, depending on the item. But I would say you could pull them out of every store. If your threshold is like a $20 profit, like that would be really easy. But I try to like kind of do more of like at least like a $50 to $1,000, depending on the item.
All right. Well, maybe we need to go to a pawn store.
I got really lucky with a bike recently, and I bought it for $170 and sold it for $1,325, I think.
Wow. What was it?
It was a Brompton, Bellow Brompton.
Nice.
Bellow Brompton. So, but you know a lot about bikes, so it was easy to spot?
You would think I do, but I don't know a lot. I know a little about bikes. I know enough to be dangerous in an underpriced Brompton in a pawn shop. And it was priced at $250, and I knew what it was just because the Bromptons have a very distinct design. It's a folding bicycle, and it folds into thirds rather than into whatever the other folding bicycles do. It's made in the UK, and there's not a lot of them. So it's just, they hold their value. They don't depreciate that much. The one I found was a 2016. I think it retailed for $1,600. And I sold it 3 years later for $1,325. So it only went down whatever $300 in MSRP value. So,
and that was a local flip?
No, I ended up selling it on eBay.
Wow. So how did that shipping go? You were able to fold it, and it wasn't too bad, or
it folds into thirds. So it actually is small enough to put in the overhead bin on an airplane. The way that it's designed, you can carry them on airplanes. Yeah. And I had pre-packed it because I knew it was going to sell. As soon as I put it up, I got messages, offers, people saying that they really have been looking for a Brompton forever. Will you take this much? And I had probably like 20 something watchers on it within a week or two. And I knew it was going to sell while I was overseas, and I boxed it up for my mom to just slap a label on it and send it on its way. I think it was maybe only $40, something like that, to ship from Florida to Texas.
Huh. So you're saying it was stored in Florida, and your family shipped it from Florida while you were in Texas?
While I was in the UK. Sorry.
Oh, well, you're in the UK.
Yeah,
Now, do
while I
you
was
still
in the
have
UK,
stuff?
My mom shipped it.
And so, similar to that, you still have stuff stored in Florida that if it sells, your family will ship it out for you?
Oh yeah, my mom's great about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's in the. I have 2 shelves and an Etsy closet, and she'll pull something and ship it. She's really good about it. She's like, it gives me something to do. All right. I don't pay her, but I like help her indirectly. Like
Right.
she totaled her car, and she doesn't like since my parents are separated, my mom doesn't have like the best negotiating skills. So she went to like a car dealership. Like, I don't know. She's a grandma. She doesn't know how to like go buy a car, get a deal, not get ripped off by a dealer. She doesn't know if they're telling a bunch of crap or if they're telling her the truth. She's stressed out the whole situation. So I ended up buying her a car, giving it to her. Like I pay her back in different ways, and she's been helping me for years. So it's like, what is this like one gesture to like all of the hundreds of gestures of that you've helped me with?
Yeah, and that seems to be something that's pretty common in the reselling community. Is it really does seem like it takes a community, right? Like there are some people who are doing it 100% on their own, but it seems like having a support system, whether it's spouse or other family members, or just friends or somebody else around you, seems to be pretty important. Would you say that's been for you?
Absolutely. The Rally Roots setup is I really like they have a team, they have their family involved, they have Callie, like it's a husband and wife, like there's so much support going on in that warehouse. Like it is like the perfect storm of success and progression for everybody. Like it's awesome.
Nice. All right. So I had a question about your journey of being debt free. So tell us a little bit what got you started.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congrats.
We should have a little dance party. That's what I think.
So tell us I don't know if you want to share what got you into debt, and then
what got me into
yeah,
then college got me into debt.
No, I get that. And then what made you what brought you to a place that I'm going to pay this off, and then what did it take?
So the debt, I was all student loans and then student loan interest. And I had taken out loans for, I think like 4 or 5 years of school, and it totaled 60 or 61,000 in loans. But I had an auto minimum payment, whenever you get out of school, you get them deferred for like 6 months, then you can auto pay minimum payment. So I did that. And then I looked, I don't know if it was a Dave like I didn't know who Dave Ramsey was. And then somebody introduced me to him. I think maybe it was me watching that. And it triggered me to like go in, log in and be like, I borrowed 60, but I owe 66. Like, how does that make sense? And I was like, well, this is terrible.
That's pretty bad.
I don't want to, I've already paid essentially over $10,000 in interest. Like, I don't want this to just keep going and going. I just want to like be done with it and be debt free and be slave to no lender, anything like that. And just focus, like get on it. And I did probably the top 3 things. You like the number 3, right? So the top 3 things I did was I made a public accountability like statement on YouTube. So I was like, I have all this debt. I want to get rid of it. This is my plan. Like I'm going to resell. I'm going to do pharmacy. I'm going to like maximize my income while minimizing my expenses, and just like pretty much chuck everything at it instead of like I'll see people that I went to school with like on Facebook buying new cars, and they probably have car payments. Instead of going to buy a new car, I'm going to just go after my student loans, because I want to say the interest average was probably 5%, somewhere in the 4s, somewhere in the 6. So I think it was maybe like 5.4 average, something like that, which isn't terrible. But from having no debt and all throughout school, thinking I had no debt all throughout school, and then seeing what the final number is at the end, it was just like, I have the ability to pay it. So I'm just going to go forward and just do it. It's like, having debt is like an investment portfolio against you, where that portfolio just keeps taking money away from you. So I wanted to get that portfolio gone, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's a weird way to look at it, but
No, I get it.
That's good. How long did it take you? Like because you went hard to get rid of it. So what was the total investment of time and energy?
I want to say I started in July of 2017 is when I made that first YouTube video. So the YouTube accountability was number one. And then number two was my consistency of posting. So I made a habit of posting every 2 weeks for the most part, posting every 2 weeks. I fell out of it here and there, but so that consistency like helped me with my focusing. It was like the accountability, and then it was like the consistency of that. And then my goal was to pay it off within 12 months, which I did not, but I did pay it the following October. So a little over 12. So I think it was like whatever, July, August, September, October, a little couple months after the goal.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's
you paid off $60-something thousand in what, 15 months? No, more than that.
Yeah, 14 or 15 months, something like that.
That's amazing.
And you still like lived your life.
Yeah.
Like you still ate 3 meals a day.
That brings me to number three was hyper frugality. So at one point I was like working a pharmacy contract in California it was like a 2.5 week gig, but it was great pay. It was a great reason to go to California. It was a great gig to travel. I've never been to that part of Northern California. It was like a little outside of Sacramento. And I want to say it was totaling like per diem and mileage. It was like $109 an hour. So I was like, this is an opportunity I don't want to pass up to just make a bunch of money and chuck it at the debt. So I was living in my van rather than like going to get a hotel. I was showering at like Anytime Fitness rather than getting a hotel and showering. So like that type of like hyper frugality mindset that spouses and girlfriends would not be on board with, like that definitely helped to pay it off a little bit faster.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
I'm just saying, usually Dave Ramsey's plan is like put money in envelopes, like, attack your first debt. College Picker's way is live in a van, shower at a gym.
Shower at Anytime Fitness.
Yeah. I mean, no, but it's genius. Like if you want to make it happen, I mean,
you got to adapt it to your lifestyle. Yeah. Like everyone, like, what does he say? The math got you in debt in the first place. Like the math didn't really get me in debt. It was the schooling that got me in debt. So I was motivated enough to pay off the highest interest rate first, even if it was not the lowest balance. Cause it's like, he likes to do the snowball, right?
Mm-hmm. No, the only reason I say that I had half what you had. I had about $33K that I paid off, but it took 3 years. And had I done hyper frugality, it's going to be the new word of the podcast.
But you got a family. I didn't like,
yeah, I get it. No, I get, and that you're right. You have to adapt to your lifestyle. I mean, that's very true. And your spouse has to be on board too. I don't know if at that time I would have been able to say, hey, we're going to live in a van. Or,
Yeah, we weren't married at the time. Yeah. She was working. I was working. Okay. We were long distance dating. So it was very impressive.
Very impressive.
It worked for us at the time. And yeah, if I told her I was going to do that now, she would cut my head off.
No, but I mean, I just think the idea of to pay over $66,000 off in a year. I mean, that's a great salary. People live off way less than that, right? And so you were taking that amount of money and living with, in a van for times and showering. That just says something. The fact that you can have enough money to live a really comfortable life and say, you know what, I'm going to choose for a moment not to live the comfortable life in order to have that comfortable life later, kind of the, Dave Ramsey idea. But do you think that that's kind of part of what makes you also a reseller? Because it seems like part of the reseller model too is like being willing to hustle really hard, to make sacrifices. Do you think there's a connection, an overlap there, or what is it that made you able to do that?
The reselling definitely helps because it's already immuned me to shopping. It's already immuned me to like new electronics, to the newest, latest and greatest phone. Like I've already become immune to that stuff. But it more goes back to the traveling on the bicycle, because sleeping in a van is actually an upgrade from sleeping on a bicycle. So the van is a very safe 4-star hotel compared to a Cannondale in a tent.
Okay, what's been the craziest place you slept? Because I got to tell you, I'm such a first worlder, I guess. Like I can't sleep unless it's in my own bed. Like I even struggle in a hotel bed. Like I just can't handle it. And I watch your videos, and I remember I went camping 4 years ago, and I slept in a tent. It was one of the most miserable experiences I ever had.
Was it car camping or was it like backpacking in the woods?
It was one night in a wealthy individual's estate to go paintballing the next day. I mean, it wasn't
camping.
No, but it was in a tent. I mean, I got to tell you,
so that's like backyard camping.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. But
okay,
it was one of the worst sleeping experiences I've ever had. Now, the only reason I say that is because, there's different degrees of frugality, I guess. But my question to you, Eric, what has been the I would say, place you felt weirdest or the most unsafe place, like you just worried about yourself?
Worried?
Or you kind of didn't want to close your eyes?
I didn't sleep well in the UK. I don't understand really why. I never actually I did figure it out why. My sleeping bag was too hot. I couldn't sleep well because my sleeping bag was too hot. I would wake up sweating. I needed to get like a lighter sleeping bag, and I just, instead of buying a lighter sleeping bag, I just suffered. So until we kept going, because we were going north, I was like, oh, my sleeping bag, eventually we're going to hit that point of neutrality where it's just going to feel great. Well, I've never ended up really hitting that point. A couple nights, maybe the breezes and a cold snap maybe came through and was chilly. But yeah, just, I wasn't scared, but it was too hot. Didn't sleep. We slept in graveyards sometimes because the churches over there are so old, from the early 1100. What is it? 1100s? Is that 1100s?
1100. Yeah.
1100. You guys are history guys. 1100s to the 1500s. Those churches from like the old Catholic switching into the Church of England era, they buried a lot of their members on site, and like there was all these headstones we would sleep by. They were quiet though.
They were quiet. That's good. Yeah, they made good camping neighbors.
So I get it. I don't know. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But maybe I need to go on a road trip with Eric. That would make for an interesting.
The thing is it takes usually like a week or two for your body to adjust. You have to know, like, our bodies are designed so incredibly well that we can adjust to a lot of things that we don't think we can, but we can.
That's good.
I've seen that because each of your trips, like even the food you eat. So what were, I know we're going back to traveling and I want to go back to reselling, but I'm really intrigued. So what did food look like on these trips? I mean, I saw it on your Insta, but I wanted the listeners to hear. So you were like dining, like this wasn't like a foodie tour, right?
The UK was less foodie, I would say, than Japan. Japan, we would usually eat. One meal would be at like a diner or one of their Japanese fast food restaurants. Usually one meal would be prepared just like grocery foods. And then breakfast would be just like oats or something quick in the morning. But in the UK, no, it was like grocery stores and just like junk food, donuts and
you had some
Doritos, Vegemite, baguettes, like terrible eating in the UK for us.
Hey, but when you're riding your bike, you're good, Yeah,
I mean, I'm turning the calories. I'm just losing muscle mass from eating junk food and cycling, and I just feel bad like eating all the sugar and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't put on much of the weight.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's get back to reselling a little bit. So it's kind of weird that, I feel kind of weird interviewing you right now. It's been 7 years, and I feel like there was like this golden time of reselling, probably, I would say 2014, 2015, with like Amazon FBA, like you could pretty much sell anything. eBay wasn't as saturated. That's my thoughts. It wasn't as saturated. And now we're in a place, and some people are saying like, oh, I'm so done with clothing. I'm done with eBay. Some people are saying like Amazon, like it's not worth it anymore. What are your thoughts overall, like on the current state of reselling? I want to hear the college picker analysis.
If it's not worth it to you, then go back to working a job or a 9 to 5 or something. Like you have to figure out stuff that's gonna be falling in the cracks and exploit the heck out of it while you can. There's still opportunities. It's just not nearly, I don't think, as plentiful as it was. Like the Ninja Turtles of 2015, I think that was one of the hardest Q4s of my life. Was just anything Ninja Turtles. You could go to Walmart, Target. When they did the live action film, were you guys doing Amazon FBA?
I was. I remember those days. I remember watching you guys.
It was like everything was unrestricted, no restrictions. And it's just like scan anything Ninja Turtles, and then you sell it for like 4 to like maybe 10 times your money at Q4. I don't know, the Ninja Turtle golden era, but it's who's going to work the hardest, who's going to study the hardest to find the brands, and who's going to drive the farthest to find the stuff. Like,
would you say it takes just as much work now as back then, or it takes a lot more work now to be, let's say, if you want to go full time?
Maybe the information's easier to attain. You can become 5 years experience, like pre-YouTube, you could maybe get 5 years of experience within like, I don't know, like 6 months to a year. But it would take so much longer before. I was flipping before smartphones. Like I was going to Google without a smartphone. I learned the hard way to buy stuff, bad buys. But maybe the competition kind of offsets that. You get that greater numbers of people in the market's just more of a saturated place because everyone has the information. But it's whoever's going to work the hardest.
So the question is, and we had our last episode, Sharing Responsibly, and we had discussed the idea that, social media has played a part. Do you believe, you're a social media guy. I mean, you've been making these videos for a while. Do you believe that social media has had more of an adverse effect on reselling, or it's allowed more opportunity for people? Where do you lean on that?
Like social media can also launch a trend that's going to make like the pie face, like if someone's going to go make $2,000 on one pie face loop around their city, it's from social media. So that wouldn't have gone as viral and they wouldn't have been the demand without it. So it creates like a different type of opportunity. Like vintage stuff might be more popular because people are wearing it and posting it on social media. But for those very easily found items that are at Walmarts and Targets and those opportunities, I don't think it's as easy to find.
No, we agree. I mean, that's where we landed. We were very big on one-offs are okay, but when you start doing the retail arbitrage sharing, it definitely gets super intense.
Yeah, it depends on the supply, where the supplies of those items are, and if you've tracked certain items and that this is what the price they were here, and then this person shared it to this audience, and then this is where the price went here. I mean, you could make a correlation of an argument with enough of those cases to say that. Guitar Hero, the original Guitar Heroes are no longer produced, so I feel comfortable sharing the information to flip those on Amazon FBA. I don't think it's necessarily tanked the market, but people are still making money selling Guitar Hero stuff. It's perfectly fine to share or provide that information.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Thank you for that. So you obviously have, crazy stories. Any of our listeners that aren't following you need to go follow you so they can watch all of the information that you have to give. On top of that, the fun vacation stuff that you're doing. And to me, they seem less like a vacations and more of like journeys that you go on. But so definitely follow. But coming from the education field, I have the opportunity to talk to young people. And one of the things I like to do is always try and impart wisdom on their life. So I find like one of my greatest joys is like trying to have one or two things that I can make my students believe to be like a truth about life. So if you had the opportunity to kind of share like advice to somebody, and it doesn't have to be a kid, it could just be like life advice, what's the thing you would say to somebody?
Before walking in a store and paying retail, check eBay, Amazon, Craigslist Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, Letgo, local pawn shops. What after that? Then you could do slick deals. Like there's so many ways to not pay retail. Just do not waste your hard-earned dollars, especially if you're young. You're probably getting paid minimum wage at a fast food joint or mowing lawns. Do not waste your hard-earned dollars paying for retail for stuff. Find a way to get it for cheaper. And then understanding depreciation. Certain things depreciate more than others. Certain things have already depreciated. Usually buying it secondhand can mitigate that depreciation so you don't get hit with it. And if you learn how to sell it, you make your money back in the future.
That's great. I like that. Never pay retail.
I agree.
Yeah, you can sum it up as don't pay retail.
I love how you said, though, that reselling numbs you to ever buying anything that, is the newest thing out there, or retail.
It helps get over some of that consumerism for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I was born like that or if it was from retail numbness from reselling. I very rarely buy anything new and expensive. It's like a $50 Filson backpack from OfferUp is like a rarity for me. That I just recently bought. That was brand new, $50.
It's nice.
But I could sell it back in like 5 years for what I paid for it. So I have that. I like calculated my risk into my backpack before I bought it. But I rarely buy things brand new. I think my drone is the last thing that I did, and that was $1,000, which still hurts to think about. But it got a lot of good shots for Japan. So
nice.
Yeah, Mike still hasn't bought his drone that started reselling. The whole reason he started reselling was to buy a drone last summer.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
He still hasn't bought it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what you're going to use it for, but it's like a very, I don't know, novelty kind of thing.
It is. I had access to one, so I didn't need one. I just wanted one personally. Now I don't have access to it anymore. And so I do some videography. So I'm like, I should get one.
You do wedding stuff. So you need that wedding shot. Then you can probably figure out a way to write it off as a business expense, and essentially it would pay for itself.
Exactly.
In the wedding client, wedding photography. Yeah. So that's the way to do it, rather than going out and buying a drone, playing with it for Christmas, and then shoving it in the closet.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's talk education for a little bit here. So there's, in the reselling community, right? I would say there's an adversity towards education, right? And the main reason is there's two. One is it's a waste of time, right? Because you take some gen ed classes, and you're like, why would I take this class? The other one is the student loan that ends up happening as a result of that. What are your thoughts on education? I mean, you paid off over $60,000, but it's paying off for you right now as a pharmacy. What's your exact title? Pharmacy tech?
Pharmacist.
Pharmacist. Sorry.
I have the opportunity to exercise my degree if I want to, or the option to. It's a backup plan. If I were to, I don't know, run out of money, I could go work, and if I really had to go get a good job with good insurance and benefits and make a good salary and live that normal life, like I could. It's insurance essentially. It was expensive insurance that I bought, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything because I made a lot of good friends in school. I feel like you meet a lot of lifelong friends, especially when you're in a professional school or maybe even like an MBA program. I'm sure a lot of people struggle together, and just that camaraderie from school. It's probably not as much as the military, but it's like your comrades. It's like your buddies. I still keep in contact with a lot of them. And if you are planning on going to school, like, do you research on the end goal? Like, have an end goal in mind of what kind of job you can actually get with that degree, and maybe lean more towards a professional degree. Technicians, like x-ray technicians, dentists, dental hygienists, things where once you get out, like, you're a very marketable, specific niche that you're going into. Or a trade job, like a trade school, I would say. I think I have a theory that everyone's getting college educated. Nobody's going to trade school. So the plumbers, the electricians are going to be the ones making six figures running their own business in the future, because they're going to be the ones that are not are very rare, while everyone else is saturated with a degree, but nobody knows how to weld anything.
Yeah. Okay, that leads me to another question though. So there's kind of two schools of thought. There's one like follow your passion. You should only follow your passion. The other one is you should follow what makes you money, even if it's not your passion, right? And Mike and I go back and forth on this a little bit. Where do you land on that?
I would say you could go to school and it's the insurance and safety of that, and you could follow your passion like while you're in school and have it on the side. Like if you want to start a blog or start a YouTube channel, you could do it while you're in school. There's no problem with that. You can follow your passion in a blog. You could follow it in a YouTube channel. You could follow it in creating an Instagram. You could follow it in any form of social media. You could follow it. Like if you have a passion for gardening, you could do it while you're working as a form of stress relief. I don't think necessarily you could have to be so polarizing. I don't think you could hybridize it.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
No, it's good because I find that right now, I think we're in a state that's very polarizing. Like you can't do both. And I think Mike and I very much argue.
I kind of do both. Like I don't resell like gung ho. I'm making 6 figures reselling. Like I resell. It gets me really good stuff, really cheap. I help people on Instagram by passing them deals of a lot of the stuff I've been finding lately. And it cuts my costs. I can go work and make really good money too. I can resell and I can kick it up the notch with reselling and make good money and kind of balance it depending on like what we really want to do. Like right now, my wife just wants me to make as much money as fast as possible without having stuff in the house. So guess what? That means I have to go figure out how to do some sort of degree job, but that's not going to be like that forever because I have a skill that I can fall back on that's non-healthcare.
Okay, so this is a thing we talk about a lot. What holds you back? Because you know your stuff. So if you wanted to, I believe you could get a warehouse and you could build and you can scale. So what holds you back from doing that?
See, I wouldn't want a warehouse.
Okay. All right. And you wouldn't, and why is that?
Just the responsibility of having it, the logistics of running employees. Like I like seeing it from a distance. Like I like seeing what the Rally Roots do, but they have such an awesome relationship with their employees and their family that it just works for them to really scale like that. I don't know. I don't know if
you don't want a 10X.
I'm too scared to see the real estate stuff scares me. Like I'm renting right now here because everyone says like, don't buy, we're at a peak, but it's, I don't know. Purchasing the real estate is kind of like my mental block right now. Like if I had a house with a dedicated workspace and a garage and storage shelves, it definitely could help with the scalability, but the whole real estate thing is kind of definitely a mental block with me. That's something I've never purchased real estate. So it's scary to get in. The one thing like I have never flipped before, to get in at like the worst time would be, it would be terrible.
Okay. No, I appreciate you being candid and honest about that because that's a question that I still have. I have my family and so on that I take care of too, but I choose not to scale because I think of what I would have to sacrifice to scale. I mean, I think it would be major sacrifice to scale. I hustle a lot. It's not like some days I hustle more than others, but you're right. I mean, it would take a lot. So, all right, my
storage facility more than anything, I'd say would be a bottleneck right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
speaking of that, what is the future for the College Picker look like? Like, what do you think you're planning as far as reselling, YouTube, social media? Like, what are your plans the next, say, 5 years?
Well, I would love to have a child. I don't know if that really fits much, and I don't know how.
All right. This is
congratulations, pre-congratulations.
Yeah, this is awesome. A first on Pure the Podcast. Somebody announcing that they want a child.
I would love to have a child. I don't know how much of an effect. Well, I know it will have a huge effect on the whole aspect of reselling, from sourcing to shipping to everything. But I'm just going to continue to create content and answer people's questions in the direct messages on Instagram.
Okay.
Just create content. I might start a blog one day to kind of throw up some ideas, to vomit my ideas onto Google search engines rather than vomiting them into YouTube. So
Okay. So any trips planned in the future? Any big trips, or is that kind of on hold for now?
Rachel said something about Greece. I don't know if that's going to happen. Our honeymoon was supposed to be in France, but that got canceled because of the Patagonia stuff, and then something else also. Like both of that things happened at like the same time, and I wasn't really in the mindset to go on a honeymoon. So we kind of like postponed that. She still went to France, but she just went and did other things and like toned down the hotels from like romantic level 5 to like romantic level 0, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
But she said something about France. We'll see.
Okay. Nice. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have you back again though, because there's so much we can talk about. I really,
we were just talking about travel and
I know, like we could have a whole, Pure Soul travel like interviews, and we could do Pure Soul pod all about frugality and living off the grid. And I mean, Mike kind of lives off the grid now, so
I do.
He does. I never hear from him.
Fifth wheel life, right?
Oh yeah. It's intense, but it's fun. We love it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had a chance, make sure to follow the College Picker on Instagram, the College Picker on YouTube. I'm telling you, every single time I watch, I learn something, whether it's about travel, whether it's about reselling, whether it's about just life.
Yeah.
So, Eric, thanks so much for being on our podcast.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You're awesome. So please follow him.
Yeah.
So with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.